and a middle school son. So if you want to put down middle school, high school, elementary school, and what grades, that would be helpful. That way we're just making sure that we talk to points that might be helpful for you. Stephanie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, good afternoon. I am Stephanie Grossman. I am one of the Special Education Coordinator 2s. So I'm very happy to be here this evening. I think we do have a lot of fun things to share.
Heather?
Hi, my name is Heather Sapola. I'm an education specialist, so a special ed teacher, and I'm here helping out with a couple of themes that we have planned for you for activities this summer. I'll be describing a couple of themes and answering any questions you have.
Lynn?
Hi, I'm Lynn Dudas. I'm one of the Special Education Coordinator 2s for the district, and I will also be sharing some of the slides and hopefully answering questions that you have. Thank you for being here.
Norma, ¿prefiere el español o el inglés?
Prefiero el español, pero no sé cómo ponerle.
Ok, le enseño entonces. Déjame un momentito.
Muchas gracias por su ayuda.
Ok. Aquí es cómo usar el intérprete para Zoom. Oprima el botón para interpretación. Es como la pantalla, como un globo abajo. ¿Usted ve el panel de control? ¿Sí o no, Norma?
No, no le miro acá, no.
Is interpretation available on iPhones? I thought it was. Okay, so según la intérprete que usted debe de ver la pantalla que está abajo, es como un panel de control negro. Le tiene que como mover su... I don't know how it looks on the iPhone. No sé cómo se mira en el iPhone. Si usted no ve los 3 puntos, los 3 puntos abre el menú, según la señora de Kemp López. ¿Sí lo encontró? No le oigo. Norma, no le oigo.
Señora Norma, ¿ya me escucha? Si escucha en el canal en español, entonces solamente si es tan amable de ponerlo en la sección de chat que ya está escuchando. O puede prender su micrófono para decir que ya está escuchando en español.
Escuchando en español.
Perfecto.
Ok.
Gracias.
No, gracias a usted por estar aquí con nosotros.
Gracias por estar aquí.
Gracias.
Okay, so as I said, I'm Dr. Leah Dardis.
Entonces,
and
como decía, soy la doctora Leah Dardis.
Hold on, our interpreter is being...
Are you hearing me in the Spanish? Can you hear me? I'm in the Spanish channel.
Hold on. Let me add you again.
It was okay before. Let me see.
I know.
I'm in the Spanish channel.
Hold on. Let me change you. I'm changing you. Give me a second, Guadalupe.
Sure.
How about now? Can I hear you, Guadalupe? All right, it seems like it's working now. Yay, love technology. Look, we did it. Remember, grace, compassion, and flexibility for everybody. So please remind yourselves that we all need grace and flexibility and for us. And so in the chat, I'm again putting our PowerPoint that we put together for everyone. So feel free to open that up. So the flow of our session is really about looking at how do we kind of spend this time together. So we wanted to make sure that you knew what we were working on. We have spent the last month really trying to calendar activities by themes. And so this is not about a race to the finish that everyone who completes it is going to get the A-star. This is really about finding opportunities for you to have fun with your children, and really looking at how we do that with intention. So our activities are organized by what we call gross and fine motor. So our gross motor skill is that the things that use our big muscles, right? So like all of these kind of big muscles that we're using, that's why I'm waving my hands. Our fine motor skills really look at using our fingers and how we write. So we looked at activities that would kind of help you with both of those. We had these ones called sneaky learning activities, because like most moms, you know, when I hide the vegetables in an open site, my daughter goes, no, I'm not going to eat green beans. But if I mash them up and blend them into tomato sauce, she doesn't know that she's got green beans in there. And I know that, and I'm sneaking in the learning. We also have these fun little acronyms, SLP, AAC, and AT. It sounds like I'm eating alphabet soup from Chef Boyardee, but really it's just talking about language and how do we have activities that really help support that, our language activities. And because, you know, we're all in the pandemic and we all love to cook and love to eat, as my clothes will tell you, we have cooking activities. Just because there's so much learning that can happen within cooking, and it's fun and we all get to eat the results of it. So it's great. And then really looking at social emotional activities about, and so we're going to define it for you and tell you how we have thought about it. And so to help you understand, when people talk at schools about social emotional, this is what we mean when we say that. So we're talking about how you can be really concrete with the skills that you're working on and talking about them and why do they matter. Giving plenty of practice. So often that like that one-time experience isn't enough to really do that. So I think about the first time I learned to like make scrambled eggs and they burned them and I had eggshells in there. So if someone judged me on my scrambling eggs now, they would be like, oh, that, yeah. So we need to really practice them just like we practice making eggs. And giving kids an option of choice and helping them to feel empowered. Again, we're here about fun and we want these things to feel fun and really just have that ability to have fun activities. So it's super important for us. And so we also connected it to books and videos because we're teachers, and what else are we going to do? But books are our life. So our themes were, we were thinking about, we live here in Oceanside and how lucky are we? So what do we get to do here? So thinking about the beach, sometimes what we can do at the parks. We have these beautiful, amazing parks all around us. Some people are going to take road trips, and road trips don't need to be, you know, for 2 weeks, but a road trip can be that I'm going to drive to Julian for the day, or I'm going to drive down to San Diego and we're going to take a road trip and have an adventure. And a road trip could be like, I'm just going to drive to Carlsbad and see what I can find. So it's just any time that we spend in the car. We put in gardening because we're so lucky that any kind of seed that we plant here in Oceanside just grows. I lived in Arizona for many, many years, and it was like, I was lucky that the seeds didn't dry up before they got into the ground. We called a staycation, and that's about being a tourist in your own city. We looked at our community. We thought about health and nutrition and our summer reading program. So those are our big themes. Now, I know that we have all over the age range. We have some students in elementary school. We have some students in middle and high school. And some of these are not going to be for everybody. And we know that. So think about how you can change them to be more representative of your age group. If you're in the summer and you're having a question about activity, you can still reach out to all of us, and we would be happy to answer these questions for you. I know I had a parent, we had said that to another parent, and she actually did reach out to me the last time asking a question about getting support for her child going to Miracosta. So when we say that we're here to help and support you, I know that that is something that we do. So when we talk about social emotional wellness, we talk about 5 things. So these are 2 of the 5 things. It's about knowing yourself, your strengths, your limitations, being confident, optimistic, and having a growth mindset. So growth mindset means like, okay, I don't know what that means. It's really saying that we don't know what things are yet, that we're going to learn it, that we're not going to just be like, I don't know this, I'm never going to know this, and I'm stuck not knowing this. So thinking like not having a growth mindset is like being a rock, whereas a growth mindset is like being that plant that is going to grow into this beautiful thing. So having that ability to think that way. Self-management is about managing stress, control, and motivating yourself to set goals and activities. I don't know about you, but I'm still working on this social emotional kind of thing of managing my own strength and my impulses, which is why I have cookies probably in my drawer right now, waiting for me to eat them. The other 3 skills that we look at with social emotional awareness is having a social awareness, is understanding the perspective of others and empathizing with them, including those from diverse backgrounds and cultures. So you're going to see that when we talk about our community, that we're going to have opportunities to do that. And so it's really exciting. Talking about relationship skills. I mean, how often do you have to tell your kids to let's communicate and listen and cooperate and resist an inappropriate hitting and conflict and seeking help and offering help. So relationships are definitely important with that. And responsible decision making, making choices about our behavior and interactions based on ethical standards, safety, and social norms. So those are kind of like the big ways that we think about it. And so while you may oh my goodness, have that thought, I don't know how to do all of those things, or you actually do, and we do it in a lot of different ways. We just don't always call it that way. So we're just giving you the name for how we have put these things together. So, of course, because we know that having been in lockdown, we have people who are struggling with mental health. And we really need to normalize that having issues with mental health is not, you're not a bad person, you're not sick. Just like if I need glasses and I wear contacts, we need help with our mental health sometimes. And having the ability to regulate ourselves, think about that, is really helpful. So these were apps that were put out by one of our partners, the Task Partnership. And we're going to talk more about, we talked more about them the last time we were here together, but they put these lists together and I thought that they were wonderful. And I was so lucky, Diane Kemp Lopez, who's the interpreter, who also translates all of our slide decks, checks all of our links. And the link for the one in English for self-help for anxiety management for the Android did not work. So if you find it and it works for you, please drop me a line and let me know so that I can put it back into here, because right now I couldn't find it. So the other one that we have is Mind Shift. It's designed for teens and young adults. So if you have a middle schooler or a high schooler, this would be one that you can think about it. And it's like as a cheerleader in your pocket. I love that kind of analogy. Happify is needing a happy fix, and it's a way to give games and activities to get your brain and train your brain to do that. And it's free. And then if you have little ones, the Breathe, Think, and Do with Sesame. So again, what is my favorite? That was they were like my first virtual teachers, Sesame Street. So, and Mr. Rogers definitely were my first virtual teachers about teaching me to be kind and learning my letters. So they've been doing it for a long time because I'm very old. So you can just imagine. So Breathe, Think, and Do with Sesame is a really nice resource, and it's also in Spanish. So that one for me is a huge benefit for supporting our families in that. So before I start with our beach theme, are there any questions, any concerns, anything that we want to talk about before we go on? We'll do a chat check. Give you a moment to write any questions in the chat. I have really good wait time, don't worry. So I know it makes Heather nervous that I can wait this long, but I've done this long enough that I have it really down pat. So, and Heather, one of the things when I was in the classroom as a teacher, behind my back, I'd be always counting 1, 2, 3. That way I remind myself to really make sure that I have that, the ability to stop and wait for people.
Good for you.
All right, Heather, you are up next with our beach theme.
Okay, so this is just consider these slides as a lesson plan in a sense. So this is your lesson plan for the summer. If you decide to put some learning into going to the beach. So this, the first thing right next to the word beach is a link to a social story. And what a social story is generally a story that you share with your child prior to doing something that may or may not be new, that might help your child get more acquainted with the activity that's going to come next. And so in this sense, in this social story, it's about pictures about the beach and what you're going to see at the beach. And social stories are helpful for any child, but generally can be helpful and useful for children with autism because sometimes they have a hard time being comfortable in new places. And so by sharing a social story with them prior to the activity, it gives them a little more familiarity with it and they are more ready to dive in, hopefully.
Do you want me to open that link for you, Heather?
You could really quickly, sure, to take a look. There are
Is
a
it coming
lot.
up?
Yes, there are a lot of links in this. So as you can see, these are just fun pictures that talk about what we need to do before we go to the beach, put on sunscreen, who we're going to see, what we're going to see. We need to wear our sunglasses, wear shoes. So all of those things are it's a story about how to get ready for the beach and what we're going to see there. So that's an option for you to share with your child before going to the beach if you like. So a cooking activity for the beach is a beach themed Jello snack. And I believe we have the pictures linked there. And so really it's very simple. Before you go to the beach, you buy some Jello. Oh, there we go. Those ads. You gather your
So-
materials. Oh, go ahead.
Do you want me to play it or no?
I don't recall all the details of it. So if you would like to take a look at how to prepare the Jello snack, it's really fun. It's an easy activity. And really, we're trying to help kids learn how to make their own snacks and learn what healthy snacks are. So that's the reason for the cooking section of this lesson plan. The next part is the gross motor activities. And that is, it's just what can I do at the beach that would work my gross motor skills? Okay, I could play toss and catch. And what can I toss? I can toss a ball. I can toss socks that are rolled up. I can throw them into a bucket. There are all sorts of things that you can do at the beach to work your gross motor muscles. And you could run in the sand. I mean, even playing in the water works your gross motor muscles. Fine motor activities, you could make a sand castle with buckets. And so that's a lot of using your hands and digging and shaping the form of the sandcastle. You can drizzle with water and sand some towers on top of the sandcastle to make it really decorative and explain to the child, having fun can also be good for you. And so we're practicing using our muscles and we're having fun. This is a great combination. The sneaking in learning aspect of this beach lesson plan is just collect, sort seashells, count seashells. That is a math activity, sorting seashells by color, by shape, counting how many there are, and writing words in the sand. That's always fun. It's another fine motor activity to be writing in the sand. So can you, I guess you don't have to answer, but can you imagine yourself doing some of these activities at the beach with your children? It's something that we're hoping this can be useful for. The next page is...
Well, Heather, I will tell you, even
Uh-huh.
as an adult, I write my name in the sand at the beach because I like the way that, it looks so pretty. Like if you've been in the office, in our office, Cherie Benet, which is one of our coordinators, has a picture of her name written in the sand. So I know that there's a lot of adults on this call that like to do that. So.
And I personally like to do the drizzle of the sand to make the towers on sandcastles.
Yeah, see, it's fun.
It is. So social emotional learning at the beach, we have a book that can be used as a social emotional sort of lesson in a sneaky way. It's called Fill a Bucket. And after reading this book or watching this video, You could go to the beach with a shovel and a bucket and discuss ways to fill a bucket and put a shovelful of sand in it. It's really, you know, you'll read, when you read the book, you'll see that there are ways that we can fill our bucket with positive things, or there are ways that we can, you know, have negative thoughts during our day. So this book is really just focusing on how can we be positive and put positive things into our life.
And there are options. I know this author has written for older students as well. So if you have an older student, this particular website has older student activities and books related to that.
And thank you. For speech and language, if that's something you'd like to practice with your child during the summer while visiting the beach, you build a sandcastle like we said and talk about the steps to making that sandcastle. So first, I'm going to gather the sand. What are you going to do next? That's something that teachers always like to ask. Predict what you think the next step will be. What in problem solving? Oh, if my sand is too dry, what do we do? So using those ideas of first, next, and last are particular concepts that are taught during speech lessons at school. So that's something that you can share with your child at the beach. You can also use location words: under, on, in, between. You can make bridges with the sandcastle and, okay, should I put the shell under the bridge or over the bridge or on top of the bridge? So those prepositional words, those location words are very useful in helping students build their speech skills. And so for some students who may not read as much, there are something called core words. And so for the core word for the beach lesson plan is more. And the core word is a visual combined with a word. And so the word, like we said here, is more. So you can use the word more anytime during your beach lesson and reference this picture, the more picture. You're teaching your child that this is the word for more. And for some children who don't read words necessarily, they read more pictures. They will get to know that that is the symbol for more. And so as they communicate with you with these pictures, they will understand what they're trying to ask you and what you're trying to ask them. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, at every theme that we have will have a core word attached to it. And as you saw, when I opened it up, you will have the English version, the Spanish version, and then additional activities with it. So it's pretty comprehensive. But go ahead, Heather.
Or any questions or ideas that you might want to do at the beach that we haven't mentioned? I kind of threw that on you. Maybe for the next theme, you can think about things that you have already done with your child at the beach that has made it fun and educational.
All right, so we'll go to the next one.
Yes.
So we're leaving the beach, so dust off your little beach blanket, and now we're heading to the park.
So, were you going to say something?
Yes, Heather is now taking us to the park. So we left the beach and now we're at the park. So park it here.
We're at the park. So the social story for the park, again, you can click that link. And if your child, most children are familiar with the park, but if your child for some reason, you think he or she may have some anxiety or just some questions about what it's like at a park, you can click that social story link. The cooking activity, ants on a log recipe, that's a fun one. And if you would click it, it is
it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's simple prep. It's some simple prep. It's celery, it's hummus and raisins, or it could be peanut butter and celery and raisins. And really just this has some great pictures that can guide you and your child to make it together prior to going to the park. or maybe your child can make it by him or herself. So, and it's healthy. And that's the point we also would like to emphasize, that we're trying to teach children how to put together food and put together healthy food. So the next part of the park theme is the gross motor skill. And the gross motor skill for the park theme is to just do races. You can set up a relay race, you know, have your blanket on one near a tree, or have a rock be the ending point. So your blanket is the starting point, the rock is the end point, and you set the timer and have your child run from beginning to end, or have your child do a crab walk from beginning to end, and working those gross motor larger muscles, side steps. There are all sorts of different activities that a child can do from one point to the next, and adding a timer makes it fun, makes it maybe competitive, and maybe the child can run one time and then maybe the next time beat his or her own time. So that's a fun idea for gross motor. For fine motor, a child can collect leaves and poke a twig through it and count how many leaves will fit on one twig. That's a math activity. That's a fine motor activity, putting the leaf onto the twig. So you can see how there are just a lot of ways to put education into fun. And there is a link here for a leaf rubbing craft if you want to bring crayons and paper to the park, or if afterward, if you collect leaves from the park, you can go home and do a leaf rubbing craft where you put the leaf down, a paper down, and then color on top of it, and you can see the image of the leaf through the paper. And sneaking and learning. At the park, you can count how many times you go back and forth on the swing. You can play I spy something or I see something, different color things, different shape things. I spy something really tall and green. I see a tree. So there are lots of different ways that you can play in an educational way with your child at the park.
And for older students, you can think about some of the things that need to happen with people watching and having descriptions. I mean, making up stories and thinking about character development. There's a way to really be able to do that. I mean, I'm a huge believer in people watching, and that's one of my favorite things, which has been hard during the pandemic, where I've had to be people watching at home, and it's just my husband, and he's tired of me people watching him. So people watching and thinking about stories and thinking about ways to make those descriptions really does help in your narrative writing for even in middle and high school.
Thank you. And the next slide.
Okay, is it not?
Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Oh, there. So for social emotional learning, really, the outdoors is such a good place to practice mindfulness and calm activities. Nature just has a way of helping people be calm and peaceful. So at the park, you could pick a spot to watch, or while you're on a hike, and use your senses to notice the wildlife around you, notice the plants around you. The practice is to pay attention to what's around you and to focus on your senses, and using your senses to focus on what you smell, what you see. And that's one way that mindfulness helps calm people down, is by focusing on their senses. To practice self-control is something else you can do at the park. You play music and have a dance time, and then after a minute or so, pause the music and make sure everyone freezes on the spot. That's the game called Freeze, one of the ways. After a quick pause, play the music again and let the dancing resume. And this is a way to practice self-control and honesty. Oh, because if you freeze if you move after the music freezes, then you might be out. So but it's good to practice self-control in that way, just to start and stop. To practice kindness, you can write a nice message with sidewalk chalk. Positive messages The book that we are suggesting is,
Here,
about.
I'll
Go
talk.
ahead.
I'll talk. So what I would say is when you go to the library, and this is what I love about our Oceanside libraries, they're still doing deliveries. So if you go in and you just search for the term national park, there's about 38 books for juveniles on the national parks that we have. And then I found an accompanying video that was just spectacular that I kind of watched. Even though I was supposed to just preview it, I actually watched it because it was so beautiful talking about our national parks. So that's a way to kind of bring in national parks to this kind of conversation.
And thank you. The speech and language component of the park is to play I Spy or I See, give your child clues, include attribute words like adjectives. I see a big tree, I see a round, spot, all those sorts of things that help. Using adjectives to expand their vocabulary is always useful. And the word of the week is see. So of course, when we're in the park, we're looking at a lot of different things in beauty. So that is the core word for that lesson.
So as we leave the park and our beach and we're dusting off our blankets and stuff, we are going to be heading on a fun little road trip. And so Lynn, take us on our road trip. What's your track for our road trip music?
Well, there was a car driving by right at that moment. So like, if I would have unmuted a little sooner, you would have heard the car. So again, there are social stories available for the road trip. So if you don't have to click on it, Leah, but they're available if you would like one. Of course, trail mix. So you can make a trail mix. There's a link there. Put different kinds of ingredients in. It's pretty simple, not very messy. So not a lot of cleanup in the kitchen. I always love that. You could, if you wanted to, make it a little more educational by like having certain measurements, like a half a cup of this and a fourth a cup of that. That might help, when you're talking about fractions and things like that. Another way of sneaking in some learning. Gross motor activities, when you're sitting in the car, you're probably not doing too many gross motor activities, but well, I don't know, some wild kids might be, but once you stop at a rest stop or something, or you get to your destination, you can do some stretches, things like that. There are some yoga pose cards here. I suppose you could have them. I sometimes keep things in my glove box in my car. I don't have these in my car, but I could. And so this would be something that, I suppose you could print out, cut up and just kind of have this as just some fun like stretches to do. I guess
I love the child pose. That's like my favorite pose right there.
You could also take this with you to the beach or the park. You don't have to just do this on a road trip. And then fine motor.
Oops, hold on. I messed up.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Lynn.
That's okay. Fine motor. I used to actually do cross stitch when I was younger in the car when we'd go on road trips. That would be a fine motor activity. There's also like yarn and thread that you can cut into little pieces and tie it from end to end. You can braid or twist like a bracelet, those bracelets that you can make. You can also do road trip bingo. We might not think of that as fine motor, but just crossing things out, just any kind of writing is fine motor. They also have those bingo cards, although sometimes there's something crazy like a cow or something, and you're like, I'm never gonna see that cow if I'm only driving around here. But you have to like slide the little thing over, and so that's actually like fine motor. All those little things are fine motor activities. Sneaking and learning, depending on the age and level of your child, you can talk about, if that question like, when are we going to be there? You can kind of turn it into like, well, let's see, we're going, 60 miles per hour. So how many miles does that mean we're going to go in an hour, and things like that to kind of try to estimate when you will arrive at your destination. Also, you can do things like looking at license plates and maybe either trying to having some kind of a contest for trying to find license plates from different states, or looking for license plates that, you know, the first person to find a license plate that has an A, B, and a C in it, or whatever. Just kind of if you're trying to get your children to think about letters and things. One of the games that I like to play with my boys is Mad Libs. So with Mad Libs, you can practice those like parts of speech, adjective, adverb, you know, noun, proper noun, that kind of a thing. So that's something that's fun to play in the car, and then it gets them reading, and they don't even realize they're reading sometimes either. So
One of my favorite card games, Lynn, is I'm going on a picnic and I'm going to bring desserts, and then we start the letter A. So I have to come up with apple pie, and then the next person does B and they say banana donuts, and then C is cake, and you go on to do the alphabet. And so you think of a theme and then you do the letters to that. X and Y, I'm always on my phone trying to find the letters that would be the dessert for those ones. So I do cheat. So just so you know that calling a friend for help on your iPhone is calling for help. So anybody else have games that they'd like to play or share with us as a group?
We play a game. Hi.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. We play a game called Doctor's Cat. It's really old school. Have any of you guys played Doctor's Cat?
No, but I'm dying to hear what this is. Go for it.
It's like the Doctor's Cat is and it's alphabetical. So you'll start with A. So Doctor's Cat is an awesome cat. And then you'll move on to B. The Doctor's Cat is, you know, whatever.
Oh, I love it.
Right, cat. And so we'll just go through the alphabet playing that. So.
But just think about that. Now you have adjectives going on in there. You have the alphabet kind of thing going on there. And then when you get to Z, everyone's like, I don't know what.
It's hard, yeah.
I have a zippered cat, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
A zany cat.
Zany cat. Well, that's Stephanie there. She's zany, so. All right, so we're going from our road trip into
more road trip. The social emotional. So for the social emotional, just kind of taking some time to pause and breathe and ask how you feel. And then, you know, practicing saying emotion words, thinking about your feelings, and, you know, spending some time in your feelings.
So you're basically asking, and so are we there yet? No, it's time for pasta. So pause, ask, say, think, ask, pasta.
Yes. And then books. So sometimes it's hard to read in the car. Sometimes people get car sick, or they need, you know, some assistance with reading and you're driving or something. So audiobooks are a good option. And then everybody, if, you know, unless it's in, you could either have, oh my gosh, what are those called? Oh my goodness.
Earbuds.
Earbuds, thank you. You can either have earbuds, or everybody in the car could be listening to it together. And so that would be a fun way to talk about it and enjoy it together. I know that my sister was saying that they'll sometimes listen to certain podcasts, that she has certain podcasts that she listens to with her kids. So her son likes different podcasts than her daughter. So it depends on who she's going with on the drive, which podcast they listen to. So anyway. And then speech and language, again, there's another core word you'll see there. There's stop. So obviously there are stop signs, stop lights. So you can have fun work, you know, doing activities with the word stop. And remember, when you look at these slides, that you can click on that icon of stop and it'll take you to more activities. So I think that's it. Now we're going, and yeah, I'm not doing gardening because all the plants will die if I teach them gardening.
So we have a number of people in our team with black thumbs. So Heather was the one that we all volunteered that she would be the gardener, because like Lynn, my plants find other places to live, not with me.
So I enjoy watering plants and keeping them alive. So I'm happy to talk about this. And really, the Oceanside Farmers Market, you've got to check it out if you haven't already. We have information there about it, but really just going there and smelling and seeing and touching the vegetables and buying them, seeing them from the farmers themselves, that's a whole experience in itself that children can enjoy. For gross motor, in the garden, we're going to be bending and kneeling and getting up and doing all sorts of different movements as we're planting or watering. So just doing some stretches in the garden might be a fun activity for you and your child. And the point of stretch is to really hold it for about 20 seconds. So pick a pose, pick a stretch, and hold it there for 20 seconds. And again, that's a counting activity, a math activity. There are stretching videos here for ideas if you have questions. And there are different ages. So there's a stretching video for children and it's about, animals. But there are also stretching videos for older children as well. So the APE, the physical education team at Oceanside Unified, has a whole website that you can check out and get different ideas about different ages, for different ages of students as well. Middle school.
Is that on here? Do you want me to open that for you?
The stretching videos, I don't know if that one shows all the different ages, but I can put a link in the chat because I have the website here on my computer for the different middle school, high school, different gross motor activities. So I'll do that after this slide. So fine motor, of course, gardening is a lot of shoveling and moving dirt around and planting. So those fine motor skills are really being practiced and are really used during gardening. Even a large spoon from the kitchen, you can scoop dirt with that and put it into a pot, plant a seed, water it. And for the learning, of course, can be measuring the plant growth over days, sorting fruits and vegetables from the farmer's market, reading about plants, and learning about the best growing conditions, and composting. So the next slide shows a few more activities we have in mind for gardening. Oh, blowing on leaves is so this activity for social emotional learning, blowing on leaves, blow leaves off the palm of your hand, and as you do it, you figure out how much breath is required for certain leaves. So if there's a larger leaf, you require more breath to blow it off your hand. If it's a smaller leaf, then you require less breath. And the point of that is to just practice what intensity you're using your breath for. And so in the connection to social emotional is when we're angry, we're usually using a lot of breath. And when we're calm, we're using a little bit of breath. And the goal is to try to help children discern what it feels like to be using a lot of breath versus a little bit of breath and apply it to their life. Anchoring to sounds, just listening to the sounds of nature outside, the bees, the wind, the bird. Again, just focusing on one of those sounds and really just being present in that moment and appreciating the moment and finding gratitude in the nature is a really nice way to be calm. And that's something that they can practice. How does it make them feel? Oh, and mindful eating is another thing that we encourage during this garden lesson. Snack on something from the garden. How does it look? How does it smell? Is there a sound that it makes when you chew? If you pick it up with your hands, what does it feel like? Again, just engaging all of their senses grows their awareness of their body and of their relationship to what they're holding. And that can grow a child in mindfulness. So even looking at the worms and the soil, just all sorts of things that you can focus on in the garden. Oh, that's what it was. So before you take the bite of the vegetable, who can you thank for that food? So again, gratitude is a part of mindfulness that's very important. So chewing the food slowly and really enjoying it, that's another component of awareness. So we have books, 23 of the best gardening books for children, and we have a video for planting plants, and education videos, composting, waste management videos. We have a few links here that can be really useful related to garden activities. Speech and language, of course, just getting outside, exploring different parts of the earth. Explore with your hands, talk about how the dirt feels. Again, using those adjectives can broaden a child's vocabulary. Is it cold? Is it wet? Is it slimy? Is it grainy? And describing how the different vegetables or flowers feel, smell, look. It tastes sweet, it tastes bitter. Those kinds of words we could always grow our vocabulary during eating practices in describing what we're eating and how it tastes or smells. And the word of the week, or the word of the gardening session, is put. So put the soil in, or put the seed in, put the plant into the pot. That is ways that you can use that particular word.
So one of the things is that, well, right now I do own a house and I have a little garden in the backyard. Part of the time when my daughter was growing up, we lived in an apartment. And so we utilized some of those milk cartons and planted seeds and had a little, kind of mini garden out on our balcony, so that even though I wasn't able to have the full-blown garden, we still had that gardening experience to be able to really think about that. What's really lovely about here in Oceanside is that we do have opportunities at the farmer's market like this. So I went to the farmer's market and tried a gooseberry. Has anyone ever tried a gooseberry? It's like a tomato. It reminded me of a tomatillo or a tomato, but it was supposed to be a berry. It was really strange. But here I am, 46 years old, and I've never tried a gooseberry. And so even as an adult, there are things that I can get out of going to the farmer's market and looking at the tomatoes, and why do some tomatoes look this way and why do they, that. So, I mean, there's just a lot there, and we're very lucky to live in a place like Oceanside that has that available to us. So we also have the information here in Spanish. So while I went through it all in English, or Heather did, this is the information for our Spanish speakers, so that they know that we have really, even though it wasn't on the same slide because it was so much information, there is it in the PowerPoint, and that link is in the slide. That slide is in the link. So now Stephanie is going to tell us how to be a tourist in our own city.
Absolutely.
So Stephanie, I love about you, because Stephanie just got back from having been a tourist in another city. So this is going to be a good opportunity for her.
Yes, actually, I didn't even think of that. That's a good thing to bring up. So kind of to piggyback on what Leah said, we are so lucky that we live in the area that we do live, San Diego. Whenever you see things on TV, the top 10 places to travel, the best places in the United States, San Diego is always right there, and people pay thousands of dollars to come to see our backyards. And what I have noticed living here, and then when I was living in Boston, you tend to not do as many things until somebody comes to visit you. Oh, so now what are we going to do? We're going to make different plans. So I think if you decide, maybe if you have multiple children, you can pick one of your children and say, okay, today you're going to be the visitor. What do you like to do? So that way you can kind of get your children engaged. And if they're getting more excited about it, then you're going to get a lot more engagement in all the activities that we discuss. So for cooking, we have a tropical smoothie as a suggestion. And if you go after the farmer's market, you can take some of the fruit that you bought there and you can put that into the smoothie. And then you can have fun. You can get like a little bright cup to put it in, and like a fun little straw, maybe an umbrella, because that's kind of what you think about when you're on vacation. So you want to make it as fun as you can. There's some, I don't know if they're still around, like the crazy straws that they used to be around, which is super fun. The kids like to watch it go up, and that is actually a sneaky little speech activity as well, because it makes your lips and your tongue and your cheeks stronger. So you can obviously tailor the smoothie to what, to what you and your family like. You might have allergies, so you make it your own, but definitely have fun with it.
Steph, are you going to come and clean those? Because those crazy straws are so terrible to clean, especially as they get into that crinky part. And I
Yeah.
don't know about any of the other moms here, but even myself, when I would drink it, that strawberry would get stuck right there. And oh my God. So
You just have to flush it out with enough hot water.
or if we're practicing speech, I'm going to
Patience.
blow it out.
Oh, well, you could do that too. Just make sure that nobody's right in front of you, because you'll get that seed right in your eye. So for gross motor, 1 minute fitness challenges. So there's a bunch of different suggestions that you can do. And I know working out and fitness has been something that I acquired later in life. I was more of a let's sit down and read kind of person, which is great. But now that I'm as I became an adult, I was more interested in doing more activities. And if I went to a class, a teacher and trainer would say, you could do anything for 1 minute. So you kind of give that little like boost of confidence. Like, I know you can do it. It's only 1 minute. So there's different, activities depending on what your child's abilities are. You can kind of tailor that to what's needed. And then you can combine gross and fine motor skills. You can draw shapes on your driveway or sidewalk, trace a bucket, so you can kind of play hopscotch and do some fun games. With some older children, you might want to just maybe draw a picture of a place that you want to go to. So, oh, I want to go to Legoland today. Let's see if we can draw a picture of Legoland. Because even big kids like Legoland. And as an adult, I love to color. So that doesn't have to be off the table if you have a high school student. You just might have to get a little more creative. And so some other for fine motor ideas, creating a puzzle. Or if you feel that they can handle puzzles, you could go to the dollar store and get puzzles. Sometimes it's a 5-piece puzzle, 10-piece, or if you think your child, you and your family want to do one together, that was really popular during quarantine, you can get one that has more pieces. So sneaking in learning, I believe this hasn't changed as long as the museums are open. Balboa Park every Tuesday has one of the museums that you can go in for free. So, I mean, the park, if you haven't been there, is just absolutely beautiful. And there's always so many things you can do, and you can pack a picnic if you want to sit on the lawn outside, but they'll have it posted on their site so you could take a look. And then you can plan for it if that's what you want to do. You can do some research to look into it. So that's really fun.
Stephanie, that's funny that you call that a staycation. I would have called that a road trip. So this is the difference of someone of growing up in a small town in Arizona and you growing up in Boston. Like, I think of going to San Diego as like going on a road trip, and you're like, yeah, that's a staycation. So
true. Everything's relative. When I lived in Rhode Island, that would have taken the entire state. It's about an hour from top to bottom. So some other activities, getting outside, hiking or camping. You could look for different insects, different plants, different animals. Really, whatever your children's interests are, you can spark that more. Next slide. Okay, so social emotional learning for this. So there's a book, 7 picture books to teach social emotional learning this summer. So it just has some different ideas of when you're out and about in the summer, what things you might expect, what things you might not expect. I would also recommend, and I'm going to kind of throw this recommendation for a lot of the things that we had suggested. So say if for the social stories, if you think your child is a little above that area, find something that we're going to this place, maybe look it up on YouTube, because you may still be a little anxious, but the social story might be a little too immature. So then everything is on YouTube. So you can go and find a video for 2 minutes and talk about it and kind of work through it. Okay, so what would happen if we were in this situation? How would we react? And just by getting ready for it reduces their anxiety a lot. And then I think some other ones, I think we mentioned yoga a couple times. That's always great. And kids are super flexible, so they're usually pretty good at it. So for speech and language, I mean, it's really limitless. So categories is a really good one. You can name categories either at the pool, you can name it if your staycation is at the park. You can really kind of pick what type of animals you might see, and then you can just kind of, you know, extend that to different types of things. You could also talk about things you might see if you do go to the museum. Let's name 3 things that you might see at this museum. So kind of gets them a little bit more involved. And then the word of the week is have. So I think another thing as we're going through with the core words, because I know that we have a middle school, high school who may be using picture communication, and that's wonderful. But if you're not, if your students are more verbal and they're looking for higher vocabulary, you can maybe just pick a word and let's look definition and see how many places we could use that word, like where it would be appropriate. So I would still recommend working on the word of the week. You just may not need the picture, but it's always good to incorporate vocabulary.
So I know that when my son was taking his AP psychology class, there was a lot of vocabulary that was with that. So there's another way that looking at vocabulary that can support our students that are doubly gifted to be able to do that. So don't just think because, you know, we're talking about core words and we're that's one way to look at it. There's vocabulary everywhere that, you know, is totally appropriate for that.
Mm-hmm.
So Lynn, we're leaving Stephanie in her staycation at Oceanside, even though she and I disagree what a staycation really is. So, and now we're going to go out into the community. And what I love about this is that community-based instruction is the heart of our adult transition program. And so this one is really super exciting and close to my heart. So Lynn, you better do a good job is what I'm saying.
No
pressure.
Well, I agree. And my office happens to be in the adult transition program building. And so I see the students, and it's really quite fun to see them working in the school community and going out into the community. But it kind of keeps me remembering like what the goal is for us with the younger kids, right? It's to ultimately teach children to be independent, teach them to be able to go out into the community and all of that. So anyway, we felt this was important to have the community as one of the themes. Again, there are some social stories. Those social stories talk about being safe in the community. There are actually quite a few social stories on the web for community, but we just included one here. And then cooking, this is a really cool site because it has picture, it's guided through pictures. It's called the Accessible Chef. And so for students who, there we go. For students who are better with pictures, this can help because it tells you, you'll see there, it tells you what you need. And it has pictures, even, you know, like 1/4 of a cup, a plate, a bowl, a fork, just everything. And it's even separated out, you know, tools versus ingredients, the steps. So, so this is kind of fun. And so you can use this as a community activity as well by saying, okay, let's look at this recipe. What are the ingredients we need? Let's go to the store. You know, what store, you can talk about what store should we go to, you know, what store do you think will have these ingredients? And then you can go to the store and look for the ingredients.
You can also make your own recipes and create your own recipes with that. And so that's a really cool part of it. One of the things that we really know about our students, especially our students as they age out of our adult transition, is that they have some food insecurity. So the more that we can help all of our students be more independent with food and having understanding how to make food for themselves, less dependency on fast food and being hungry.
Yes. And then the gross motor, you know, a lot of times just even activities like pushing the grocery cart and using the stairs instead of an elevator, walking places, those are all things that involve your gross motor skills and your larger muscles. You can also visit parks like the water splash pads, go, you know, do dance moves. When the water comes up, I have never tried that before, but it sounds like fun. Fine motor. So fine motor, I mean, just getting ready to go outside into the community by tying their shoes, zipping their jacket, buttoning, those kind of things require, you know, fine motor skills, those, you know, your fingers to do those, I don't know, those fine motor skills. And then also even just like looking at a map on a screen and just kind of scrolling and moving your fingers to make it bigger or smaller, that kind of a thing. That's also something that is requiring fine motor. And it's also a way of sneaking and learning, looking at the map and finding out where you're going and where you are. You can also teach social skills, like when you're at a restaurant, teach students or your child how to order at a restaurant, practice crossing the street safely and using public transportation. So these are all things that you learn when you're in the community. So the social emotional, so this kind of talks about giving back to the community, and when you give to others, that helps you to feel good too. I know with my son, we were going to get donuts at that really yummy donut place, Parlor Donuts. and so, you know, there's so many good donuts, we couldn't just get one. So we got a whole box to bring, you know, some home to our neighbors as well. But then also my son saw, you know, a man sleeping on the sidewalk, or he wasn't sleeping, he was laying on the sidewalk. And he said, "Can we give one to him?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, of course." But you know, it makes you feel good to do just simple things like that, that are, you know, so easy to do, right? And those are things in the community. So then here's a book, One Plastic Bag, Connecting Through Stories. So as you watch this video or read the book, you can answer the question, can one person make a positive difference in the world? And I think we all probably know the answer to that, but sometimes we forget about the power that we have, that we can actually make a positive difference. So, and that's a good feeling to feel that way. So, so there's the video, spread peace, say something. So it's about a simple, safe service project from home. So you can start a movement with your friends and spread peace, positive messages and kindness. Let's see, speech and language. For speech and language, can visit a library in your community, pick 2 books that have the same character, talk about how the character is different in each book, and what happens that is different, where do the 2 books take place. And the word of the week is good. So I guess you could talk about what that kind of goes along with the social emotional, like what kind of things can you do that help you to feel good, help others to feel good. And then also when you're going to the restaurant and you're trying things, you can talk about, does this taste good? So, and I think that's it for the community for now. Leah,
So
thank-
Stephanie, I know that Lena was going to present, but I haven't presented yet. Would you mind if I do this one?
Go right ahead.
Okay. So our last topic is really health and nutrition. So in looking at health and nutrition, our cooking was really going back to our farmer's market or just going to the store, looking at fruit salad or fruit kebabs. I love the idea of, taking a variety of fruits, using plastic knives and teaching kids how to be safe in the kitchen and cook and do all those things are incredibly important. Sometimes we look at like bananas, apples, and oranges, and they're the easy fruit, but like a kiwi is a much harder fruit. So sometimes we have to invest a little bit more time and not use the easy button and try a kiwi and see if that is, just to give everyone an opportunity about those things and really understand and seeing how that are. Now, if you're from my household, you'd put a little tahini on top of it as well, because that just makes everything better. And my other family probably put chamoy. So it's just all about balance, making sure that you have your spicy with your sweet. Our gross motor activities, and this is where we are going to really just be like loving on our OUSD adaptive physical education site that Heather was talking about. They are the most incredible set of people I have just worked with. They're super fun. When I see them actually teaching and working with students, oh my God, it really just makes your heart so happy. Look at this. So they've created their own Google site that has lessons here that you can access about how to support some of those gross and fine motor skills. And so really, looking at that. So they did this in their spare time and really had that. Like tossing and catching, hopping and jumping, and then they looked at this and said, okay, now how do we show this for preschool, elementary, through middle, high school, and then seated adapted activities? Because as you know, our adaptive physical education work with just the gamut of students who may be in wheelchairs and walkers, all the way to our students who are just really struggling with some of those how to hold a pencil kind of things. So we're really lucky in that. So please visit that and see that. This is for adapted phys ed. They also have occupational therapy, so handwriting, scissors, sensory fine motor skills, vocational, and for physical therapy, so that motor planning, how to use the stairs, how to ride a tricycle, all of those things that some of us take for granted, they really have thought about and worked on and have videos to support that. So really, really lucky to have them as resources within our district.
Leah.
And thank you. Yes.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but I might have missed this. This is on the OUSD website somewhere?
Yes, it is. And Heather dropped it in the link. I know, Lynn, I didn't know this either. So when Heather talked about it, I was like, oh my God. So even though we all work together, there's so much information out there that we haven't even had. Did you know about this, Lynn?
Well, I did. I knew about this, but they had just given me the site. I didn't know how to get to it.
Yeah, I didn't either, but they gave me the link.
Yeah. So, but I want to use it because to the parents and guardians who are here, we're creating a new website, which is going to be much more easy, I think, to navigate. So I want to add this to it. So.
Perfect. Lynn is the super ed webmaster, so we're really lucky to have her. With fine motor, using knives, plastic or metal to cut, peel fruit or spread jelly or butter. Those are all things that are really important that before I had my daughter, I didn't realize I had to actually show her how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I just figured I'd made enough of them. She picked up on it, and no, that didn't work for me. There was a lot of jelly everywhere. It was sad. Sneaking and learning, again, we've talked about using fractions while measuring for baking and cooking, creating healthy meals with the food groups. So if you are vegan like me, you might have a different idea about what those healthy meals and food groups are. If you're following more of a keto diet, that's your whole idea. This is really about what works for your family and thinking about how you want it to be within your family and where you want to put your time. Again, this is not about stressing you out. This is about having fun. So if any of this stresses you out, don't do it. This is really about having a stressless summer, planning activities and things that are fun to do to really just help to sneak in the learning. It's not about, everyone's going to be asking, what is your journal entry for the day about this? So we are all about fun. With social emotional learning, again, we went back to those 5 ideas. So with self-awareness, it's really about tasting and having hands-on exploration of foods, having them experience and describe foods with all their senses. That was really interesting to me, because while I look at a piece of fruit and might think they're sweet, my daughter would always tell me they're sour. So even like you would think that we'd have the same experiences, it's not true. So having that, how does the food change if you put salt on it? How does the food change if you put tahini on it? What makes it better? But we all know that. I mean, just those kinds of ideas about it. How do we have that self-management and really develop impulse controls is so hard. I mean, if I was much better at it, my clothes would not have shrunk on me. So we all are still working on that self-management and practicing and setting goals. My goal every day is to get up and do some kind of exercise and walk. And so that is my goal. So even myself as an older person, I need to really look at that self-management. Having awareness about where our food comes and introducing them to the parts of the whole. We are so fortunate to have Yasagoche Farms that is, close to us down off the 76. Some people might want to take well, I would say it's a road trip. Stephanie might say it's a staycation up to Tanaka Farms up in Orange County, and having this ability, even Cyclops Farms, which is on Fire Mountain. There's a lot of opportunities just here. I know that off of Division Street and in Crown Heights, they have a community garden there. We have a lot of little community gardens across Oceanside that can really be lovely to go and visit and see, or even starting an own little garden on your front porch and stuff. Relationship skills. Giving students information and children information about nutrition to help them complete at home and encourage them to grocery shop and prep meals. As my children left the house and they're living on their own, I had realized that my daughter was really good and knew how to cook for herself, but my stepsons did not. And so I got them later in life. It wasn't my fault. But just having them to understand how to grocery shop, how to cook for themselves. You don't need to eat out of cans all the time. You can, actually cook things is just really, that kind of part of it. And then cooking together really helps to build family connections. Again, if it's stressing you out to cook with your children because they're making messes, totally get it. There's other ways to have fun with kids. This is not about stressing you out. You have to find what works for you. Cooking brings me joy. It fills my cup and it relaxes me. Other things might not be that way. Responsible decision-making, those nutrition lessons really empowering our kids to make good, healthy food choices, to be decision makers in their own health and well-being. When they go to school and they are looking, do they want the pizza that's at the bar or do they want the salad bar? We want more of our kids to be choosing the salad bar and all the great things that are on there than to only be focused on the pizza and only eating the pizza. So the more that we can do to have that homeschool connection is better for our babies all around. And then we have books that are, and these ones are kind of cool because it's nutrition education that's applicable in any setting. So I went and found all these little booklets that really can work for you. So if you have healthy eating for your family, for busy families, for young children, activity and eating for teens, activity and eating for adults, and hopefully you're not blessed to have pregnancy yet, but if you are, there's a healthy eating booklet for you. So just trying to really find those ways to be there for them. And again, if you're like me and Rebecca now, who's in the vegan house, your idea of healthy eating may be slightly different than other people, and that's okay. That's why I didn't put the pyramid. And so, yeah, we'll just go with that, Rebecca. You're on my wavelength. You know what I'm talking about. For speech and language, going on a picnic, talking about the things that you brought on the picnic, describe what they look like. The basket is brown, it has a handle, but what you use, we use a knife to cut sandwiches. Just talking, it's incredible just by talking about what's happening and what you're doing and you're narrating and modeling your thinking, not just for speech and language, but it's oftentimes what we do in the classroom to model how we're thinking as adults for children is really powerful for them to understand how to think about the world and engage in the world. And then the word of the week is life. And so again, going through it's the same setup for every one of the ones that we've talked about. It has the English explanation, Spanish explanation, and then multiple activities for the word like. And again, if like is not, you need a more advanced one, of course, AP Psychology has great words that you can learn and you can get ready for the AP test. College Board and Khan Academy are best friends. And so you can access a lot of those materials for them. So that looks at health and nutrition. And of course, because we don't want to leave our Spanish speakers out. Come on. There we go. It didn't catch up. We have all the information here in Spanish for all of our Spanish speakers. And again, gardening with a milk carton. If you don't have, if you're not able to garden on the outside, there are ways to do it on the inside in smaller settings. And all of those things are really, you know, I remember as a child, my grandmother always had a pot of peppermint, or is it mint? I never remember the word in English, but yerba buena. And so it was always, she'd go and pick it and make tea for us when we were sick. So, you know, gardening has a lot of applications about, and just gardening in small little pots is really, you know, if you don't live in a place where you can do it on a big scale, is really helpful. So, again, I love our Oceanside library. It's just been like, for me, a connection for during the pandemic, because I used to work in Escondido and I would leave my house at 6:45 and I wouldn't get home until after 5. And so the libraries weren't open on Saturdays. So when I found that they would deliver to my home here at Oceanside, I was like ecstatic because I could continue reading. I didn't have to wait for them to come available on my Kindle. I could actually get paper books and take them with me to the beach and not have to worry about dropping my iPad in the sand, all of those things. So just really want to promote the library as much as possible. And the last thing I learned the last time we were together is that because Oceanside students are awesome, they all have library cards already. So we are very fortunate to live in an area that already promotes that. So, you know, you can go online and order all those books. You can also join in on the summer reading program. It's for all ages. They earn prizes. So from children 0 to 12 and from teens 13 to 18, they have story times and book clubs. And of course, because this would not be an activity if Lynn didn't put a social story in there. So we have a social story about going to the library because there are rules at the library and expectations. And so we want to prepare our kids that the expectation of the library is to be quiet and to use low voices and how to behave and things like that. So definitely those social stories are really critical to it, to their success and feeling within that part as part of it. And so thank you to Diane, who, when it comes up in a second, because I clicked on it and it's not coming up. We have the information here in Spanish. So that, again, that's a great thing about the Oceanside Library is that they have so many resources that are available in Spanish. So we're just really lucky to live in a place as beautiful as Oceanside are. So that's our formal presentation. And of course, we put in our emails and our contact information on the next few slides. So like if you have any questions or want any more social stories, or you want help with anything with behavior, Lynn is an awesome resource. And Lynn, if you'll drop your link in the chat, she actually has a website and resources available specifically for parents. So if there's something that you're struggling with from preschool all the way to young adults and with behavior, she's got you covered and will help you and work with you. And we're not just talking about students that have behavioral challenges, but anyone that's struggling with some of those behaviors, because as we are noticing that during our pandemic, mental health has become a struggle and mental health impacts our behavior sometimes. And some of us are a little more naughty than others, but that we are communicating something with that. And so we want to make sure that we have resources to support that. And so Lynn is just, I mean, we're just really lucky to work with her. And so if you can't remember to call Lynn, you can call me. I'm the Director of Special Education, and I can connect you to the right people because I know who the people are and they can't hide from me because I evaluate them. So If you need more resources for speech and language, Stephanie and Lena are there. If you want more instructional things for students who are a little more impacted with disabilities, Heather and Lynn can help you with that. And we have other members of our team that aren't here that definitely are ones that we can reach out and make sure that we have the support that you need for them. And so Anna Maria Burke is also one of our special education TOSAs. She works with more of our students that are more of the mild that get more of the pull out resources. And whereas Heather works with our teachers that are more with our students with significant disabilities, but both of them are awesome and will be happy to with anything that you may need and questions. And then our last one is Lena Medina, who is our, again, alphabet soup specialist. So she works with assistive technology and augmentative and alternative communication. So if you have one of those iPads that helps kids communicate or core boards, that's what we're talking about. And on here, I dropped on the link that example of a core board. So this is our core board right here. So, and I lost my, here you go. So this shows you what the core board, so all of those words of the week, we took them from our core board. And so, you know, really being able to point to them and say, like, so I like, and then whatever the object is, I like AirPods. So again, you know, having that ability to communicate. One of the things I struggled with as a principal when I was first coming into this is that I didn't have a lot of familiarity with working with the core board. And so Lena just kept saying, it's okay. If you're figuring it out and modeling with the kids, you're actually helping them because you're showing them that you're looking for it, you're searching, you're doing that. So don't ever feel like you have to be an expert. This is really about us learning and collaborating together and having fun. So that's our version in English. And then we also have our version in Spanish. So in the Spanish version, again, it's in the same place, but those words are in English underneath. So you can use either one of those as opportunities for students, so that at least at the picture, they'll be able to translate that into their, or try interpret that in their heads in English for that. So I'm seeing some stuff in the chat. So let's see what we got there.
Well,
Lynn,
since you said you were evaluating me, I thought I better put those in there.
such a joker, and you totally take me seriously. All right, Lynn, tell us what you dropped in the chat for us.
The behavior team Bitmoji classroom. There's one that's in English and one that's in Spanish. So it has all kinds of resources, visual supports, and all kinds of things, different social stories. So
Wonderful. So that is our presentation for right now. Are there any questions, any concerns? I'm going to stop sharing so that I can actually see the screen better. Any questions, concerns, comments, things that we haven't thought about? What can we, you know, what do you all think?
I have a question.
Yes.
This was such a great panel, and I'm wondering, are we going to have more of these next school year?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Rebecca, for saying it was a great panel. We put a lot of heart and effort into it. So I appreciate the recognition that you provided for us on that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. I have a ton of notes, and this was great. I appreciate it a lot.
And once our recording is done, I'm going to stop